begin with a nightmare scenario. Someone logs on to TripAdvisor and they go to your hotel website and they click, they have that, excellent, good, average, awful, and they click on awful and they read that. And they make a decision, or maybe they come to your hotel and they write something like that, and then in the morning meeting, obviously, you're called up. So how do you deal with a situation like that? Let's start with Richa. Because your hotels are all icons.
Well, they are icons, thank you. And thank God 2 of them right now are in the top 10 in TripAdvisor. Yes, these things happen, but we've all grown to understand how TripAdvisor works, how social media works. So it's all right. The most important thing here is feedback. So the first thing we do is engage with the customer, because for us, this is direct voice of the customer, undiluted. There is an experience in it. And we understand where the problem is, where things went wrong. All of us try to be in the top positions, be it TripAdvisor or other such platforms, but it's always not possible. It's a moving picture. Social media anywhere is a moving picture. So we try and understand where the problem went, what happened, what went wrong, and we try and address that. And then we hope for a better review. But no, we do not lose sleep over it, but we try and do our best to make up for it, to call the customer back, and make sure the negative experience turns into a positive one.
Divya, your hotel, I would say, because of the people who are served by your hotel, they're young a lot. Right. They're more savvy online. They're more outspoken, maybe. So obviously, you have to deal with a great deal of inputs, whether it is at the level of your own website, whether it is at the level of TripAdvisor, even something that Richa and I were discussing, print has now become online as well.
That's right. That's
right. And, an article on ET now, et.com or bwhotelier.com. How do you deal with it?
Well, to be honest, I think like Richa just said, I think we take our feedback absolutely as seriously as anybody other. Speaking about this, we are actually very paranoid. In fact, we have this paranoia about consumer feedback. So I don't think we do anything differently. What we really do is try and respond as soon as possible to our guests whenever we have something good or bad happening, both ways. So while we bucket our reviews, responses across platforms into positives and negatives, of course, and we try and respond to each one, our tag times for the negatives are much higher. I mean, like they're more quicker, if I may say so. Primarily because we know there is this guy there who is looking to hear from us sooner than the other ones. So yes, and like she said, all that comes from the negatives and the positives is feedback that's very critical and needs to be not just monitored and tracked, but also channeled into something more constructive. So here we have this entire response management system at Lemontree Hotels, where right from the time that a comment is floated, and mind you, it goes to everybody who is an employee of Lemontree. So each morning there is one individual email ID that goes to 3,500 IDs speaking about a guest review. So we are that critical about feedback. And from there, we not just, get the feedback, read it and respond, we channel it into various buckets to improve our processes. So I think, yes, while we are younger and we are trying to get there and we are very nascent in our entire process, I think the fact that we have a digital landscape, the consumer footprint on the digital space is very important to us.
Ruchika, once something is in the digital space, it's always there. It's not like a magazine or a newspaper which you can throw away and forget. If it's there forever. What are your reactions to that?
That's true. Whatever is there is going to be there forever. But let's not forget, for all the negative feedbacks you get, you also get a lot of positive feedback. So I don't think consumer is blind with the fact that there was one negative feedback, and especially if it has been responded well, and if it has been taken care of, which I'm sure most hotels and most brands take. I mean, it's a priority for all of us. So even if there is a negative feedback, like I said, there are also lots of positive things that are there about the brands, about the hotels, about the services. So I completely don't agree with the fact that the consumer is blind. They read all and they take their own perception value. Plus also what's happening with the social media is that people have started preferring their friends' review about the whole, about the brand or the product more than some stranger, because I feel if Richa is telling me this place was good, or let's say Bikram is telling me this place is good, I would actually respond it more in a more positive fashion than just reading it on the online face. So that's how it works. So it's kind of okay, and I don't think we don't lose sleep over it. Of course, it's a concern area, but it's not something that we lose sleep over.
Vipuljit, if I could just add to this, it may not be it may not be completely true that what's in social media stays there forever. I think the biggest advantage that social media has over print is that if you have a viewpoint which is not been taken into consideration in the previous article done by the writer, you can call them up and you can give them your story, and there could be an updated version or an edited version. Unlike print, where if there's something in the Sunday Economic Times, I have to wait probably for 1 week or for 2 weeks for the rejoinder to surface. So that's an advantage.
Yeah, it's an advantage. I mean, I agree with...
Lost a lot of hair over the second mega, but
We are paranoid about it, really paranoid about it. In the XCOM meetings in the morning, any negative comment is actually reviewed. We get to the bottom of actually who's writing the review. Sometimes, and with a large conference center, there are people who just write a review and we have to trace them. Once traced, I think these people want immediate attention, right? They are millennials. They write on social media because they want comments on it. And we have to act fast, and that's what we do. And if we have made a mistake, I think that's what the customer looks. If you have made a mistake, we say sorry. And if we are ethical, a lot of customers then go back to the positive points and look at those positive points, and they empathize with us and say mistakes happen. But if we have taken a step, which is immediate attention, and we have resolved the issues, and what you said is true, we've asked the customers to remove that, the comments as well, and they have done so. So that's what happens. So I think we have to be ethical when we respond, and we should be truthful and honest. If we have screwed up, we have screwed up. We'll make it up for you. And we call them back, and we actually do a lot of things for them. And I think we go back to TripAdvisor and they remove the comment, or the customer themselves, they say that it's been resolved, thank you so much, or they remove the points.
Yeah, I think it is important to be responsive. I think it's very important to do that. Even if it takes us time at our back end to figure out who exactly did it, what went wrong. I think the fact that the first message goes saying, thank you, we acknowledge you wrote to us, I think that's half battle won when it comes to handling.
Richa, what in your view are the most important actions that a Marcom PR sales person can do to maintain reputation online?
Well, whether it's maintaining reputation online or offline, I think the first most important thing to do is to understand your product. What exactly are the strengths or the weaknesses of your product? And then as a Marcom person, of course, my external community is largely the media. You try and maintain good relationships with the media, and you increase the number of interface they have, the number of experiences they have with your property. But at the same time, what we were discussing some time back, how can a story always be good? Yeah, there are times when the story is not good. You may be very friendly with a journalist, but the story is really not so good. You cannot ask a journalist not to do a story, which is something that we never do.
Which is something your management may not understand all the time.
That's not it doesn't just...
I think all of us agree with that.
Not just hospitality, I think it's all across brands, across all industries, where probably the bosses would expect. And probably it also reflects the kind of confidence they have in us. But no, you can never kill a story. And I would never do that. My years in hospitality are...
And you have a media background before
That's
that.
exactly what I'm saying. I was a journalist before I came to hospitality. And I would never want anybody telling me to drop my story. So I have never till date asked anybody to drop a story. I would just request them to carry my perspective or the hotel's perspective. As long as they do that, and as he said, if we make a mistake or there's been a slip, we apologize. And we put our act together. But no, we could never ask somebody not to do a story.
Divya, what about campaigns online for spreading the word? How would you do that?
Very interestingly, at Lemontree, we have an in-house social media team. We, as I said, are in a very nascent stage right now when it comes to social media. And what we really go on our platforms like a Facebook or Twitter, Insta, and G+, the Google+. Talking about campaigns, I think we are not very heavy on the social media in terms of campaigns. We do a lot of offers. We do a lot of F&B related offers. We do room stays and stuff like that. But I don't think we really go all out to do any individual campaign, let's say comfortable beds or anything to do with brands so far. While we definitely press a lot on the fact that we are equal opportunity employers, and I think that piece stays very well with us. And on special occasions, on days of importance, where we see that message will get traction and penetration, we do a lot of multi-platform activities, complemented by print and online.
Ruchika?
To make any campaign successful, especially on the online front, of course, no campaign can be just online or offline. It has to be a 360 degree. The most important is the content. So whatever campaign that you work on, you have to ensure that the content has the ability to go viral, because that's one thing that you're going to definitely look at. So if your content is good enough, it has a lot of weightage. Let's say there are a lot of interesting videos attached to it. There are a lot of great graphics. There are a lot of great creatives to it. There is a more chance of it to become viral or being shared. So definitely when you're looking at the campaigns, you think on all those grounds. Secondly, of course, there are a lot of influencer strategies that you use and adopt for campaigning. There are a lot of influencers in terms of bloggers, outreach program that you would do so that you ensure that it reaches out to even the audience that possibly has not been using your brand till now, and to reach to a different level. So they are very multifaceted campaigns that you do, and also they're very targeted. So depending upon what you're trying to promote, so be it spa, be it room, be it a brand, or be it, let's say, F&B promotion, you accordingly work on that. But most important is the content. If your content is not good enough, it would not be shared, it would not be talked about, nobody's going to read. So I think that's becoming very important, that I think the marketing communication people now, it's our responsibility to generate all that. So we can't be just dependent on outsiders.
And Vipul, one of the more important parts of a campaign is to try and break away from the clutter, because online there's so much to choose from. How?
Actually,
because I'm sure the management team says campaign, it has to be good.
See, first there comes the business. We have a brand. We decide what exactly should the brand be, the business is, and then comes the communication. And it's very important that we choose the platform that we want to be in. Right? There are hundreds of social media, hundreds. I mean, you just name, and we have to choose whether we want to be on Facebook, we want to be Twitter. It's not humanly possible to actually manage all. So we choose where we want to be, right? And then online we tell good stories about ourselves or the businesses, or the communication is such that when we tell good stories, it builds an image in the mind. And eventually, it leads to basically profits, it leads to more customers coming in, and people believing in the product, and then coming back again and again in that. So that's what we do.
Richa, you had talked about how you have friends who are journalists. Now let's expand that to what we call journalists now. You have the huge community of bloggers who are uncontrollable, who are numerous.
Well, don't get me wrong, journalists as friends, because that's, like you've broken ground in maybe hospitality, I broke ground in journalism. So they continue to be friends from that time. I remember when I did my internship in Indian Express, Orish Bhattacharya was the big mover and shaker there, continues to be the same right now. Bloggers is a new community, yes. And
it's a part which is unpredictable, much more unpredictable than...
Very unpredictable, I think. And there are kinds of bloggers. I don't know how many we have here right now, but there have been hardcore writers who have turned to blogging, and then there have been bloggers who have just mushroomed. So
there are bloggers who are bloggers because they want to come to a food festival.
Yes. So
or a party.
So I think this is largely an industry issue, because we still do not have a hardcore...
And they do affect reputation. I mean, they can get eyeballs, and it can affect you in...
Well, I would differ a bit here. I think they do get eyeballs and they do get likes and they do get retweeted. But ultimately, if somebody is not serious about blogging and just does this to get that kind of a score, I think people see through that. They really don't last. They can probably hurt you a bit, but they cannot harm you in the long term. Because for every immature and disinterested blogger, you have probably somebody who is far more interested, far more serious. So we try and focus on that. But I think we need a body which takes bloggers seriously, and we need an authority, a blogger's body or something. We have a couple of those, but nobody's really been, like we have a journalist association. So there really isn't a hardcore bloggers association. If there is, maybe I don't know about this. But I think that is what is really needed. And it's something that is doesn't meet concerns, hotels, of course, all of us, all other industries, automobiles, FMCG, it's all over.
Also, I think bloggers become a very loosely used word. It's not really defined what bloggers are, because I have kids practically coming with lots of Instagram followers and they say they're bloggers. So is that defined as blogging or not defined as blogging, or anybody is a blogger?
That's why you need an association that actually defines this.
But again, having an association is counterproductive. I mean, that would take away from what they actually are. They're much more organic. Everyone, even you are a blogger in something, if you write something and put, I guess, I don't know. Or,
well, I guess then it would depend on the organization to consider
and I
their
mean,
feedback.
your company is very well respected in hospitality. A newer hospitality company may have a more difficult time with bloggers. As ITC, you can say, and
we
people
don't
will believe you
support
more.
to anyone.
I'm just saying.
We take all kind of feedback.
Do you have any feedback for that? Even Sorish is scared of you, Richa.
No, with the experience that all the hospitality colleagues that we have and how we run our businesses, we know who are serious bloggers and who know that, and even the customers who go on these sites, they know exactly what they're looking at and who they are looking at.
I think from a point of view of the customer base and the industry, it's great. It's the people who are coming online who don't realize it, because it's very difficult to know who's genuine and who's not when everything looks equally slick, everything looks equally interesting.
I think if you go to TripAdvisor now, they have made ratings for the people who put comments as well. So that's a very important step. Now, in case there are sometimes people put the comments, and this has happened on our website, where a lot of people just came for the heck of it and they wanted freebies and they put the comments, and we caught them. They've removed the comments, but then there is a negative marking against their names that has been put. So it's an important thing, and I think that's helping us. It's a double-edged sword. It's a necessary evil. We have to live with this. But yes, I think we are all smart enough to know, and the bloggers themselves also. I mean, if I'm a hotelier and I'm trying to defame somebody, it would be a shame for me if somebody else from my community calls me up and says, "What are you doing?" So I don't do this. And we know that if we are serious bloggers and we are real food critics, we will go on these sites and we'll do it. And everybody knows and recognizes them. So I don't think that's a big problem. But there are still, there are wannabes who want to do it. We just ignore them.
Now, the last question that I would like to start is back from Richa is, how important is online reputation?
Oh, it's extremely important. It's a reality that none of us can shy away from. We accept it. It's very important because reputation is what? It's an aggregate of all your beliefs, perception, everything that somebody else, the external community thinks about you. That is what comes and aggregates into reputation. So the perception has to be positive. And social media can help us create that perception. We try and work with all the social media tools and technology that is available to get that. So it's something that you cannot say no to. It's something we know. We take it very seriously at ITC Hotels. Our cloud score of 72 has been the highest. Our response time has been the fastest. We try and do it within, as soon as the complaint or any feedback is given. Not just, as she said, good or bad, right or wrong, but the response has to be there. Engaging with the customer is something that you cannot say no to, whether it is offline, online, physical, any platform. And the biggest reality right now in this environment is social media. So your engagement with the customer increases over social media. It's a great tool.
Sure, I agree. It's a hard reality and it has to be taken seriously but with a pinch of salt sometimes. And, having said that, what has really happened is that consumer has too many choices today. And he writes on various platforms. He's doing just about everything everywhere from the palm of his hands. He has access to putting his feedback just about everywhere. So I think, yes, social media is a great place. It's like a listening room from my point of view, where you get the goods and bads. And if you couple it with some intelligent understanding, some intelligent analysis, it's like some unorganized big data sitting there, which eventually in the future will result in some wonderful, powerful outcomes. So I think, yes, it's hugely important. It's there to be noticed and actioned upon.
Completely, it's extremely critical. I mean, there's no seconds to that. And let's not even forget that a lot of business for hotels have started coming. I mean, there's a huge percentage of business coming through online. So obviously, it's extremely important for us, the online reputation management. Like very correctly said, it's a listening. We have to be in the listening room, just listening to what's happening. And in some ways, it's great because we do have a certain level of control also over it, because that's a direct conversation that the brand and the consumer is having, and there is no third party involved. So in some ways, I think it's also a blessing because we get to interact with our audience right there and then. So it's extremely, extremely critical.
I think it's a shame if we are not on social medias these days. In this age and time, we need to be on the social media. For me, it's a big differentiator. There are so many competitors, as you rightly said. It's a big differentiator of what we do with the prices and the products that we have to offer, of what we do online. People like it or they don't like it. It's a big differentiator of what the different businesses do. Other thing is, I do not look at only the profits and people who come to our hotel or the restaurants. I look at it as a potential, basically people who who are the potential employers, right? They look at these feedbacks and they decide now. They are millennials. They are like, they're very intelligent and they're very hooked onto these things. And if there are too many negative comments coming in, they don't want to apply even for that hotel or the restaurant. And I think that's a thing that we need to keep in mind as well.
I think it's a great motivator too. While it's giving us all that it is giving us, it also tells us where we are going wrong and where we are going right. So technically speaking, if someone comes up and says, hey, I saw a differently abled employee in one of your hotels and he was doing a damn great job, and I love being there because of the fact that he was servicing me so beautifully. I know my business model is correct. I know the fact that I have taken 15% of my staff, which is differently able, in the environments of the hotel to service on the guest-facing areas. I know I'm doing it correct. I'm getting the applause for it. I'm getting the recognition for it. And it's a pat on the back, so it feels good. Yes, it's a great motivator.
Well, thank you to my panel. And any questions? These ladies and this gentleman used to answering questions. This is their job. They love to talk, even more than me.
So if there's no question, just one to keep the conversation rolling.
Yes, absolutely.
Just a question to the whole panel. How's the reporting structure now? Does the communication department now and that you head, does it report to a director communications on the board? Does it report to HR? And I'm talking of where does who does internal communication report to? What's the structure currently? I remember communication was too important an event to be allowed to work on its own. But do you all report to a director of communications now? How's it on the board?
My designation is General Manager Corporate PR, and I report to the CEO of the company.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Ma'am, in Lemontree. Yeah.
Myself, so if I may just give a little structure about communications at Lemontree.
Yeah, I will help you.
At Lemontree Hotels, communications is a small department which is a subset of the marketing team.
Okay.
I report into the Deputy Managing Director and look after all the hotels across India. My designation is Manager Communications.
Yeah.
At the Park Hotels, I'm the corporate director, communications and PR, and I report directly to the chairperson. And I believe for the Park Hotels, it's always been a very critical role.
Yeah.
In fact, I've been working in the industry for 16 years. So even at the unit levels, most hotels, unit levels, PR and communication heads also reports directly to the general manager. So I feel for at least from the time I've been in this industry, communications has played an extremely crucial role because it's always been to do with the brand management. So they've always reported, even at the unit level, directly to the general managers.
Why do you ask this question? I want to ask.
It's a good comeback question. I think it kind of sets the mood in a company, in an organization, particularly one where you interface with such a large portion of the public, not necessarily just your target audience, but who are using your services. So it's important to know whether communication holds the kind of position it should and be taken as seriously as it must.
That's a very good
I think it also depends on whether you're getting good publicity or bad publicity.
No, don't.
Then it depends on how important the person is.
No, don't interrupt that answer. She was saying it's a very good question. Yeah, please go ahead.
It really is a great question because many years back, PR probably wasn't taken as seriously or as significantly as it is today. At ITC Hotels, we've always had the tradition of the unit PR manager reporting directly to the general manager of the hotel. That's because you understand everything faster. The news comes to you faster, what's happening inside the hotel. At the corporate level, corporate PR reports to the chief operating officer. Again, you are completely in sync with the thinking of the top management. And I am sure in many other industries, this change has already happened. But about 10 years back, no, you're very right. This didn't happen. PR was just some function somewhere, just associated with a bit of whining and dining. But all that has really changed now. There's been a sea change.
Yeah. So to answer the question, the second part, and thank you for your compliment, ma'am. It's a very critical question. The second part, the reason I ask is, if it's not senior enough and is not taken seriously enough, you can make out from the way the reporting structure is, and whether it's integrated to internal communication, online, offline, customer relations, HR, marketing and PR, marketing and positioning, business, and you said profit. So if you can make a very clear idea by just asking what the position, what it reports, as to whether you really take these things seriously or it's just a nice thing to talk on a panel.
The reason I asked this question was I wanted to be clear and exactly what you're saying. Actually, PR and marketing reports to a lot of people.
Very good, yeah.
A lot of people, like you said, HR, if there is a job opening, what to write, where to write, and which platforms to write. This is all done by PR and marketing. They're the custodian of brands, right? For the sales team, the PR and marketing generates qualified leads, so they report to them as well. But eventually, the direct reporting has to be to the general manager because he takes the ultimate call, right? So essentially, at the Leela Hotel, what happens is there's head of PR and marketing, who's Nidhi, sitting right there. She reports to the director of sales and marketing. But eventually, the general manager takes a call and she has the reporting there. So that's how it is.
And if you're a public limited or you're publicly held, do you also interact with the finance officer, CFO?
Sorry?
The CFO, in case you're a listed company?
The CFO, yes. I mean, the budgets and it's a listed company. So you said, yeah, we have to report eventually to the CFO or the board of directors as well. So that's true.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Yeah, I've got a general idea.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
This panel has really done a very good job because it's very difficult to kind of have Natarajan kind of be settled with the answers that you all give. Yes, go ahead.
One question, are you also using some kind of web analytics tool to look at your total, brand, how you're managing your social media?
Yes, we are. We are on Revinate, and that's how we manage our social media. Yeah.
So do we. We use multiple, actually, web platforms to see where we are standing, because it's crucial and critical, again, for us to see. We're being also from the unit levels in each individual hotels, where are we standing? So yes, we do.
With us as well, we have a reputation management tool installed. In fact, we are recently doing a very interesting pilot with a new player in the market, completely customized to our needs. And yes, not just listening and responding, but also comp set analysis, how things are working. It's like an entire single window dashboard out there, which gives us, the perspective to everything around us.
Yeah, that's right. We also measure accountability, competition scenarios. So I think all of us use similar tools.